Never taken a class in art or studied art in any formal sense, but over the years her talent has been widely recognized. She has been commissioned to create artworks for institutions, public institutions, as well as by private individuals. And as you can see, one of her favorite mediums is acrylic, and her painting is realistic, not cubist, not pointillist, not impressionist, realistic. Except for 2 years they spent in Iceland in the late 90s, Deb and her husband Bill have lived on a 25-acre farm off Casco Bay Road where they have a horse, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a flock of chickens. As I said, Bill is a retired Navy man who works in landscaping now. They have 2 grown daughters. Now, having outlined who our artist is, let's now hear from Deb as to what her art is all about.
Thank you. I actually have one on my ear, so I don't need that. Thank you, Pete. So this is a little different probably than anything you've seen, and I know there are some of you in here that may know me as a physical therapist and as an aqua therapist. And very commonly when people from the pool see me out in town, they say, "Oh, I didn't recognize you with your clothes on." But today, little did they know that I actually was taking my clothes off sometimes to do the modeling. And today they may not recognize me with my clothes off. You're only crazy if you're the first one to do it. I keep it by my painting table, and that's how I live my life, doing things sometimes that other people haven't done. And I could never, ever sit still, ever, ever, ever. And that is also me, as you can see. Why do I do what I do? Why did I call this show Debbie Casterlin 360 Degrees Wholeheartedly Vulnerable? The reason I did is because I'm trying to encourage everybody to be their authentic self, all the way up until all of us die. And the best way to do that is for me to reveal who I am, who my authentic self is, and this is the way that I'm doing it. So first off, my authentic self, part of it is DNA. So this is my family tree. I am a mutt. I am from a European mutt. I have all kinds of countries' DNA in me, so somewhere along the line, the artistic talent, I think, came in from both branches. There's a lot of musicians in my family. That's how we arrived to this country on the German branch. So the creative thing's been there for a long time. Now, who am I? Well, it's nice to see that I'm pretty much the same as I was in my baby book, because my mom wrote and documented, and I continue to document in journals also my whole life. And she wrote some very interesting things that are definitely, I've been pretty consistent. 4.5 months, very alert. Later on, 9 months, loves rhythm, loves music, loves creating, gets into trouble, always getting into things. It's active, very active, hypersensitive. Those are all, I stayed pretty true to myself growing up. I come from a little farming town, Davenport, New York. So just so you know where I come from, it's a little tiny town. Not much, it's incredibly small. This is it. There's no stoplights. This is it. So when I tell you that I was valedictorian, it doesn't mean much because I only had like 40 people in my class. Certainly would not have been in Brunswick. From a young age, I was just home at my parents' house, and I asked them, I said, well, when did you recognize I was doing art, or was good at art? And my mom said, in the baby book at 4 years old, loves to color and stays really good in the lines. And I can remember that I was, all the kids used to say that I stayed in the lines really good. So it was eye-hand coordination that I was gifted with. And I had my dad was a school teacher, so I had a lot of reading done, and a lot of it inspired me. Little Mommy was one of my favorite books, and I tended to draw what I was exposed to, and this is a book that I started with. I used to copy the illustrations in Eric Sloane's book. So I was always drawing and reading, and I'm sorry. So, and then as I progressed, 5th grade, did a little book, Swift one, so illustrated it. Is it okay, or am I moving too much on the 6th grade? You can see my talent is when I do a project, I do a big project just like this. So probably didn't have to do all that. 6th grade, they had me design the little graduation programs. So in 3rd or 5th grade, I started winning awards for my art. Save Our Deer, Don't Shoot More Than One a Year poster. I remember that one. But this is the elementary school graduation that we had that I designed. And in 6th grade, they presented me with this award. And the teachers told me that they thought that this was true, and they wanted to have that. Which I think I live by that. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. So I strongly, strongly live my life that way. Here's another one of my little illustrations. So I used to copy a lot. That's how I started. I copied what I saw. It's good for eye-hand coordination. Then I got a little bit fancier as the years went on. I started doing some lettering. And then they started doing a little bit more drawing, and it became a little bit more real. And then I had to design something that turned to something else and then turned into something else. So I was on a farm. I was raised on a farm. So I took my cow, turned it to grass, and turned it to milk. And then I did like a recipe book and designed the whole thing. And it's really yucky now, but all the little pictures inside. So again, another school project. The project was in art class in 9th grade or 10th grade to just do an empty book. I had to fill mine and give it to my mother. And then I started to get published, the cover of this, and there's a little squirrel picture inside the first page. So some of my work started to get noticed with a little squirrel. And then I was doing, my dad is a school teacher, and somehow the local school started recognizing my talent and had me do calligraphy for diplomas and college diplomas and high schools. Yeah. And then I moved to Iceland and had to do a gardening guide because I wanted to beautify Iceland. And then I eventually published a book, illustrated a book that got published and won an award for the best nonfiction book of the year. So the illustrations in here are mine. So they just got a little bit more advanced. However, when did I start with acrylic painting? Right here. This was my very first time with a paintbrush in my hand. So that's what I produced in art class, I think, in 10th grade. And then that was for my mother, for Mother's Day. And this is for my dad for Father's Day. That was my second painting ever. And then it progressed from there. And I normally paint what's important to me. So you can see that the creativity runs in my family. My aunt, this is her house. My aunt and my uncle got all the the wood out of the woods and cut it and created a log home. So they designed it and created it. So it kind of runs in the family. And then nature is really important to me. It's all the stuff that's important to me. Fishing, my family. And I couldn't do anything without my family. My My parents were nurture. That was the nurture piece. They definitely encouraged me to keep producing. They're very crafty. My dad makes furniture. In here, I'll have it laid out later, but my grandparents do like doll houses. Everybody does a little bit of everything, so everybody's crafty. And this brings me up to now, though. So now, that was back in New York. We lived in Iceland for a while, so my Iceland paintings are at the Blueberry Cafe, so if you've been there in the past year, you've seen the paintings there. But my life now is, I'm a farmer and a physical therapist, and an aqua therapist, and everything else that I do. But these are all the trees that we tap for maple syrup, and then we also have 130 apple trees that we make cider and stuff, and we have, like he said, horses, and these are all the trails that I created, so another form of creation. My grandpa, when I was a kid, encouraged me to create with Grandpa Bedine, and this is one of his little creations. And we were always taught to create with the materials you have on hand, and we didn't really have a lot of money. So when we would visit Grandpa, he would have my sister and I dumpster dive into boatyard dumpsters. And this is marine plywood. And you would cut the plywood and make little trays and then paint on them. So we've always just been taught that it doesn't matter if you don't have money. In fact, I don't even really value money as much. I give away a lot of my stuff. Through the years, I've given away a lot. And to me, the things that I value are, for example, in the back of the room, there's 2 paintings of flowers on the bottom, and they're called Mascari Jewels and Hyacinth Pearls. The reason I painted those was to show that I actually value nature, and I value beautifying the world, and I value all the little tiny details a lot more than I do money, which is a human invention. Well, that being said, let's see what else. And Grandpa also, the reason he inspired me is that when I was 10, he had a heart attack. And he never knew he was an artist until he had his heart attack. He gave me this for my birthday, I think, or Christmas. And in it, he collected at yard sales. Wrong way. That would have been bad. He collected at yard sales art supplies and gave them all to me with a little note that says, it's the same little note, "Have fun, Debbie, love Grandpa." And I've always tried to keep that in mind when I'm creating art, because to me that's the most important thing, is that we're finding out what we love and then doing what you love and sharing what you love with others. So today I'm sharing what I love with all of you. So I try to keep his message envision for me. Oh, this is one of the other things that I created. I loved Indians, I still do. And I created a lot of leather work because they had a leather craft business. But on my table where I paint, I try to remember to have fun. So I literally have bubbles, because I love bubbles, silly putty, and a kaleidoscope, because I've always been fascinated with kaleidoscopes, and a bouncy ball, because I've always loved balls. And according to my mom in my baby book, that's been a common theme. I was quite an athlete at one point in my life. So I've painted on a little bit of everything through the years, from rocks to bones to people to, gosh, every tools, a little bit of everything. But that's pretty much that. So bringing us back to the wall on Wholeheartedly Vulnerable, I also do, in that corner, there's a picture that I did for my Aunt Jerry of a basket of flowers. The reason that is there is because I also do the bakery flowers at Wild Oats Bakery. So I've been doing that now for 11 years. Then I did Humble Gourmet and Green Gourmet also when they were in business. So it's another little thing I do on the side. I just counted up 418 bouquets this past summer. In addition to working, like, how many, 3 days a week at Greater Brunswick Physical Therapy, which, by the way, our mission statement is right here. And I did that in calligraphy watercolor. So many of you know me from there, I'm sure. This picture here with the suspended raindrops was actually a painting that I created, of course, at the last minute, because that's the way I work. You guys saw last night in here. I created that at the last minute, handed it in, or finished it 5 minutes before I needed to hop in the car. And it made it in the show, juried by Connie Hayes at the Art and Maine show. But what I did with that, I've never done this before with any of my paintings, is I took a picture every hour or two. So you could see the process of how I paint. So I start with just a blank white, and in this case I brought a picture, a couple that are in transition. Sorry. So I start with a white canvas, and then whatever the color is in the background that's most common, in this case, black. And that's how I start, basically, and then I just paint. I don't draw anything. In fact, those little art books that I got with Grandpa's little kit had these little, this is how you draw, learn to draw, and it had all the ovals and all that stuff. Frustrated me, and there was nothing worse than paint by numbers, because yuck, I just couldn't do it. I just wanted the free range to just create. So these are some other ones that I'm working on that are in transition, but you can see I just left a hole. So where the nude is going to go, and I just did these because there's like shadows from the tulips on me, and I thought it's really cool. This one's almost done. Well, when I say almost, I still have a lot of hours left on it, but I have to do quite a bit left on that actually. So that's sort of my process, and I'm just going to leave these in here behind for the duration of the show. So if you want to see how I create, it's pretty slow. That's the hyper-focusing part of my realism work. They take anywhere from 10 to 80 hours, which is why I price them like I do. So I'm sticking those right there so don't forget. How I create. I did this little poem to share with you. As a wall is built brick by brick to create a building, my marks are added to a surface one by one after traveling through my eyes and mind, hour by hour, day by day, until I feel satisfied, complete. Then I stop to sign my name. But my husband's interpretation of me painting is a little different. He also created a poem for me. I paint to music, and I grew up with a lot of like Peter, Paul, and Mary and stuff like that. So I have a very eclectic, depending on what mood I'm in, to have in the background. I have some of Elliot's here. And then a person who inspired me that passed away last year, Frank Glazer from the Highlands. He was 99 years old and still playing the piano, and he just really models that it doesn't, as we age, we can still create right up until the last breath. But Bill's interpretation of me painting is this: just a swish. Grab a canvas, start to paint. Water on the side. Brush in hand, a compact disc. Dave Matthews Band arrives. Paint to canvas. It's now beginning to look like land and stream. A swish of the brush in the water dish. Once more, the brush is clean. In the stream, I see a fish. Again, the brush hits the dish. The canvas slowly comes to life. A day of painting for my wife. And Bill is here, he's in the back. So that brings me up to, let's see, as I go around the show here, did I miss anything? My family is really important to me. My mom and my dad I talked about, but they have taught me so much, and that's why I'm able to have the confidence enough to actually display myself there, is because of the upbringing that I had. They're amazing, I'm so lucky. And then there's a picture of one of my gardens, a Bald River that I created. That's 6 foot wide by 71 foot long. And that's to just, I really love to beautify the world. I planted probably 300,000 bulbs with about 6,000 kids in New York and Iceland and Maine. And my goal is to make one of those bulb rivers in town eventually. So don't worry, I'll be hitting you guys all up for helping me with that somehow, some way. Even if you just gave me 50 cents, it'll help out. My goal is to do that in about 2 years from now. So fingers crossed, that's one of my dreams. This right here is also one of my dreams, right here, when I'm in a white dress. When I was 18 or 19, I carried around a little cutout picture of a woman in a white dress painting on the beach. I stuck it in my wallet and I said, I want to be that woman someday. When I was 45, I passed this dress at TJ Maxx in the store, remembered my dream, bought it. There was only one in the store. Bought it, and painted at the beach at sunset. Is it too loud? Is it too loud? Okay. Sorry. And that brings me over to now the figurative work. So the figurative work, how I got started on that is 4 people died in my neighborhood in a week, or that I knew in a week, and one of them I found. And the very next day, somebody asked if I would model. And I had been being asked for years to model. But I was picked on as a kid about my body. I was small-chested, I was big-hipped, and I was bow-legged, and I got teased all the time. So there was no way I was going to model. But the amount of funerals that I had that week, I said, when she asked me, I said, what the heck, let's just add one more thing onto my resume. So that's how I got started with that. Then once I started, I realized the power of the nude work on trying to get my messages out to the world on the things that I care about. And how my husband fell into the work as I started modeling for other people. And that buttercup shoot you see, the bottom picture of me walking across the field is the first photo my husband ever took. The second photo he took was the one I painted from undressing. The top one was one of probably his 20th picture. It was the same day. And when I came back in and saw those, I said, oh my gosh, Bill. So he was painting for an artist so that the artist could still paint me because he lived in Florida. And then the one next to it with the apple tree, where the apple tree tipped over like this, it's called Dance of the Wolf River. That is to remind you all to have fun up until your last breath. And it doesn't matter what season it is. And as my great grandpa Constable says, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just bad dressing. Yeah. So it's really important if you're dressed right. Now that is not actually dressed right at all. My sister thinks I'm nuts, but the reason that we did that is because the main figurative show we heard about, it was in Belfast, and it was February. And so I said, well, Bill, let's just enter it. And he's like, but you don't have any nude paintings. And I said, but I can do a nude painting if you take pictures of me. So we literally just ran out in the woods, and that's my favorite apple tree. It's a Wolf River apple tree, and that's how we got started. And the rest of them is just to show strength and flexibility and connecting you back to nature. And that brings me over to here, which is, actually to here, is the crystals. And those are to remind you all to, well, let me back up a little bit on that. I was really sick. 2003, for many, many, many years, I had chronic Lyme disease, and my family has all been really sick. And so do you guys know what these are? Oh, right here.
We've been trying to figure it out.
Does anybody? Well, besides Bill. Besides my husband. Looks like ice. Just shoot it out. What do you think? Coral, ice.
Maps.
She's on it with the ice. You are actually looking at horse poop. You are actually looking at horse poop.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's it. That's it. And the other one beside it is my chicken coop door. Once again, every day it's different. And that's how beautiful frost can be in the morning on a chicken coop door. So the photography that I do tends to look, I have an insatiable curiosity, as if you can't tell. And I just look and love the details of the little things like that. And that one is to show that beauty is everywhere, in everyone, and in everything. It's just a matter of finding it. And I honestly believe, and that's why I do the flowers, I have seen people just light up with a smile as soon as I enter the room with the flowers. And I honestly believe that a smile is the most powerful thing in the world. And so I invented a little haiku poem for that. Armed with a smile, the world disarms. And that's how I live my life. And that is why I'm doing the show, to actually, hopefully, encourage you to care enough about yourself. There's 7 billion of us. We're all different from each other. We're all unique, but yet we're all similar. We're simply just a mammal, an animal. So that's why you need to stretch and have good posture and all the physical therapy stuff that I could go into that I won't right now. And that is the reason I created that. I'm almost done. The reason I created this was just to remind you with chronic Lyme disease, and what I realized is that to get through life is unfair. Life hurts. Life is rough sometimes. And when life gives you crap, find the crystals. It's the key. And that leads me up to finally being almost done. Over there, since I am so eclectic and so full of doing all kinds of things in my life, I have a full apple basket philosophy to life that you put as many apples as can go in the bucket to get home, which is 60 pounds. This is the Midcoast Symphony Orchestra. When I started to get tremors, which my grandpa and my dad have really bad, like that, I know where I'm headed down the road. My eyes are not that great anymore. So I am still going to create, because Grandpa threw his paintbrushes in front of me when I was 20 and said the F word for the first time ever when his hand got it so that he couldn't do the realism anymore. And I said, Grandpa, just do modern art. And he wouldn't do it. But he turned to knitting. So he still created up until he died. I decided, well, I can still see, I can certainly hear, and tremors will come in handy, I think, with painting to music in the dark. So the last 2 years, I've been going to the Midcoast Symphony Orchestra, sitting in the back row in the dark, and simply, intuitively doing whatever I want, which is the pad of paper. Here, Elliot's going to play for me in a second so you can see my process. Is the pad of paper is like a dance floor. My tool is like the dancer, and simply I'm just being the choreographer, I guess, and intuitively it's just dancing across the paper. It's so much fun. It does my active, bubbly part of me that the hyper-focusing part of the acrylics doesn't reveal about me, because I have a bubbly, active part too, if you can't figure that out. So on that, I think, what do you think, Elliot? Do you think? I'm thinking that we will.
Why don't you do some questions?
If you guys have any questions, I've covered so much information that you may not have any questions whatsoever. But if you
How
have
are we
any,
doing on time?
it's like 27, so we can always do one.
But
Do you want us to
talked
do
about
one or
doing
two? We talked about doing,
Two
is it,
things lasting about 4 or 5 minutes.
If
Said 10
not.
minutes, or we could just do one.
do you want to see 2 pieces or one?
I don't care, no.
Okay.
Let's do it, Elliot. Let's do
Okay.
it. If you guys will. But you can ask questions while he's getting to the, yes.
Do you work on more than one piece at a time?
Oh yes, that's why you saw 4 over there. I often have about 7 pieces going on at a time. Depends on what mood I'm in. And to tell you the truth, my life ebbs and flows, and sometimes I don't paint at all because I'm so busy creating on the other parts of my life that I don't get a chance to paint. And then, like right now is coming into my painting season. There's not as much farm work, or not as much bulbs. I planted thousands of bulbs in the last couple weeks. So now I can actually head back inside and hopefully create a lot of paintings. I have a lot of commission works that I need to finish up, and some of you are in this room, I'm noticing. And everybody, when I ask, they say, oh no, it's okay, it's worth it. So they're waiting, but I'm hoping to get all those caught up so I can start taking more orders. And anything else for questions?
Beautiful writer, beautiful illustrative writer. Absolutely, the emails are fantastic.
Thank you. So a quick one. Winter Mist. This is a poem that I wrote on my bench in the morning to share the experience with my husband. Winter Mist. Oh, surely I cannot resist the calling of the winter mist. Fields of gray and snowy white, horizon fog so out of sight. Branches full of pearl drops, streams of water flow with pops. Twigs dressed up in pearly drips on every tip and every dip. Suspended mirrors for a second, magical they surely beckon. Drips and drops, snaps and pops, tweets and twitters, birds don't stop. Singing tunes and whispering wings, flocks of starlings perch as kings. Land overhead upon the tree, serenading joyfully. I know I have so much to do, my list upon the table new. But 3 trees across the stream fade into nothingness, it seems, swallowed by those shades of gray. so lovely that I have to stay. My list will just have to wait as I sit and contemplate. My list will be there for me later. This moment won't. So I will savor. So enticing, I can't resist the magic of a winter's mist. And that's pretty much how I live my life. So I am not punctual for that reason. But, any other questions? So I guess we're,
You let me know when you're ready.
yeah, I guess I'm, yep. This whole process is my sister gave me the best compliment ever. She looked at it and she said, "Ah, Deb, really? It looks like a kid did that." And I said, thank you, because it's really hard to let go of our adult thinking. And with this, you have to gut it if you think you're behind the beat. And I think also Elliot, it's sort of like he is a composer, and it's like musical recycling. I'm taking his information and just recycling. The composer turned it in his head to the musicians to play, and now I'm taking what I hear and putting it back down on paper. So there you go. Go ahead, Elliot.
Places to go. First page.
No, no grade or something.
I think that's it. Thank you for bearing with me. That was certainly Oh my gosh, I'm scared to death, but I did. Oh, I got my thing on.
Right.